This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I am your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. You can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, where there's links to, everything, social media, all that other stuff. How you can contact me, sign up for my newsletter, my photography website, everything at hikingbob.com. So go ahead and check that out. And joining me today is my co-host, who's been here for almost 10 years and slowly approaching 500 episodes. Holy crap, Kevin, what are we doing
Wow.
here? Is Kevin Wild Westendorf. Hi, Kevin.
Hey everyone, it's Wild Westendorf here, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf and my website, wildwestendorf.com.
Just to give everybody a heads up, as probably everybody knows who gets my newsletters or follows my social media or listen to the last podcast, I'm down in Arizona. We just passed daylight savings time, and of course all the rending of garments over the time change, and everybody gets in an uproar. I don't get it. I'm a little confused. Maybe it just doesn't affect me. But in any case, Arizona does not do daylight savings time because it gets so hot here in the summer. They want the sun down as early as possible. So I'm an hour behind. Technically, it's Mountain Standard Time, even though everybody else is on Mountain Daylight Time. But for all intents and purposes, we're actually Pacific Time. So we're in the same time zone now as California. So we're an hour behind everybody else, which means the sun goes down an hour earlier here. But it's actually not quite an hour earlier because we're further south and a little further west. It's probably like 40 minutes. And anyway.
Yeah.
It's confusing. Anyway, we still have daylight savings time. There was an interesting article in my last newsletter. So if you want to see that, you can go to the website and click on that. But about why March gives us a rapid increase in the hours of available daylight. And it has absolutely nothing to do with daylight savings time. It's all about that. The earth starts to shift and everything. So we see this really fast increase in the hours of daylight in the month of March. And consequently, in the month of September, we see this rapid decrease in the hours of daylight as we start to shift. Anyway, pretty interesting article in USA Today. I posted that in my last newsletter. So if you want to check, if you get the newsletter, it's in there. If you haven't, if you don't get it, you can go to my website, sign up for it, and you can also read that article there. But it's a pretty cool article about about why these things change. It's all about physics, and daylight savings time or not daylight savings time has nothing to do with it. It just shifts. It shifts the hours of when daylight is, but it doesn't affect how many hours there are. That actually comes with this a whole other thing. I'm not an astronomer, so I understand absolutely none of it. But it's still all there. And one other thing I found out was that apparently the Canadian province of British Columbia has decided that this last time change is their last one, and they're going to stay on daylight savings time apparently forever, from what I've heard on the news today. So that is an interesting concept for them. So, and there was also a survey that 65% of Americans who said if they stopped changing the clocks, they would want to stay on daylight saving time as opposed to standard time, because everybody opts to, and I would think it makes sense to have more hours of daylight at the end of the day, as opposed to in the beginning of the day. Because in the beginning of the day, most time you're getting up early. It's before you wake up or you're going to work, where if you have it at the end of the day, you're up, you're coming back from work or school, and so you'd rather have the daylight at the end of the day. I don't know what's going on. It's one of those things that I don't think anybody should be changing the rules unless the whole country changes the rules. And unfortunately, here in Arizona, where they don't do daylight savings time, they would still be an outlier. So I don't know how that would happen. It would be a confusing, ugly mess. And but I've never understood all the complaints about why accidents increase and all that stuff. I question the science on that, but somebody will tell me I don't understand analytics. And yes, I do understand analytics, but I think that when you survey people, it's like polling. Kevin, we've talked about polling during political seasons. It's not the math I question, it's the honesty of the people answering the questions. and of course that throws off the math when they're not exactly honest. So anyway, enough of that stuff. Kevin, when we last had you on the podcast 2 weeks ago, you talked about you were going to be going to Las Vegas for a trip, and then you were going to be going to the Grand Canyon, and then you're going to be going to the Painted Desert, Petrified Forest. You're going to be going to Sedona. You have done all that stuff. Anybody who watches your social media got to see all that. Looked fantastic. The one hike you did that I am super interested in, because this has been on my bucket list since I hiked down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, is going down the South Kaibab Trail to the Tonto Trail. And then basically the Tonto Trail runs along the south rim of the Grand Canyon, I guess, and you'll tell us all this, about halfway down till it runs into the Bright Angel Trail. And then it runs back up the Bright Angel Trail to the top of the rim of the south rim of the Grand Canyon, and you come out by the El Tovar Hotel. I think it comes out right near there.
Yep.
You did that hike. It's been on my bucket list for a long time. One of the things that dismayed me when I saw you did it was your mileage was longer than what I thought it was going to be. So now I'm questioning the wisdom of me planning on doing this hike. But tell us about this hike and what it was like, and what you expected, and the distance, and how difficult it was, or was it difficult? I'm going to turn it over to you, and you could tell us all about this hike you did in the Grand Canyon.
Well, I will start off with what we were just discussing with savings time. Don't travel on those days when the time moves forward, because when you have an early flight in the morning, oh, it makes it awful, because you lose that hour, and then when you're flying from Vegas to Colorado, you lose another hour. So that was awful. But yeah, so me and my mom went out to Vegas for a cousin's wedding, and for those of you that don't know, Vegas is where I'm from, so I go out there every few years for family stuff, and I decided this time I wanted to take advantage of the proximity I would be to the Grand Canyon. Plus, I love parts of Vegas, but after one day at the Strip, I'm done with it. I'm more of a downtown Vegas guy. Like I really like that part. But I was just like, I'm not staying an entire week in Vegas, so I took advantage of being able to take a few days off of Vegas, and I drove to the town of Williams, where I stayed for 2 nights in a train car, which was really cool. And it's obviously been converted into like a little room and such, but that was really, really cool. And I started my first day out with the hike in Oak Creek Canyon, which is between Flagstaff and Sedona. I did that hike the first and last time back in 2018, a couple days before I did the rim to rim to rim hike in the Grand Canyon. So I was trying to mimic that part of the trip in 2018. Except this time the creek was really, really high, so so you had to cross the creek, I think, 6 times. So that was a little tricky, but it's a lot of fun, and it was like 6.5 miles round trip. You can the trail goes to a certain point, and it's the official end of the trail, but you can continue past that for a round trip of 14 miles. But past that point, the trail is not maintained by the Forest Service or any groups in the area, but it's there. Obviously, I didn't want to do a 14-mile hike the day before the Grand Canyon, so I went past the end of the trail a bit, and then I was like, okay, it's time to turn back. And beautiful area, but the last time I hiked it was in the fall, and so I enjoyed it a lot more in the fall, because the creek was very, very low, so it was extremely easy to cross the creek, and just fall colors everywhere. It was just gorgeous. And then the next day, I went to the Grand Canyon. My original plan was to hike the rim to river to rim hike, because when I did the rim to rim to rim hike, the beginning and the end of the hike was at dark. So I really wanted to do the part of the trail that we did on the south rim in daylight, to see what I missed. And I missed a lot too, that I have since learned. But when you go down to Phantom Ranch and you decide to come back up Bright Angel, you have to take what's called the river trail. Well, that got shut down. They say it'll reopen in June. That got shut down because of a major rock slide, and so the trail just kind of washed out. And so I didn't want to have to go all the way down to Phantom Ranch and then back up South High Bob Trail to Tonto and then take that up. No, I really wanted to do the original route that I had planned, so I decided to take Tonto, which is a really nice, chill, mostly flat trail that connects South High Bob to Bright Angel. And it was at just the right time where my right knee, because I'm right-legged, my right knee was starting to hurt really bad because South High Bob is very, very steep. There's a lot of parts of it that reminded me a lot of the incline here in the Manitou Springs. So it's just like I was just putting all this extra weight and energy and effort on my right knee. And I know it's because of two reasons why it didn't affect me as much when I went down that trail the last time, or the first time was that was almost 8 years ago. So I was younger, and when I did the rim to rim to rim hike, I trained an entire year for it. So my body was built for that. For this time, I didn't really like train or anything. I just did it, and it was fine. It's just a lot of pain in my knee, but it's fine now though. And what's really nice about the Tonto Trail, it's wide open, expansive views. That because you're going west to east, your view changes over the miles along the trail. So you're seeing the same stuff the entire trail, but the angle and the view changes. So it's really cool. And then you connect to Bright Angel, kind of close to where Havasupai Gardens is. And as I got to that point, and that's when I finally sat down and ate and chilled and all that. And I saw that there's a ton of work being done on the water pipe. So there's a whole crew down there. And then I went up the Bright Angel Trail, and that's when I started seeing tourists not bringing water down. And the gardens area, it's about 4.5 miles from the top of the rim. And so I was seeing a lot of people that were way too far down without water or food or anything, especially because the water supply in the canyon was shut off because of the work being done on it. I hope everyone made it back up fine, but I also hope it's a lesson learned to kind of just be like, oh, okay, when you go down a canyon, you still have to come back out up. And I knew I was getting closer and closer to the edge or the top of the rim because I just started seeing more and more people. So that helped give me a second wind and just kept going and going. I think if at the when we did the rim to rim to rim hike, I think if I could have seen how much further I had to go to get up to the south rim, that would have broken me. My mental state would have just collapsed. Because when you're down on the Tonto Trail and you hit Bright Angel, like, and you see like, oh, and then I said some bad words in my head, because you realize like how much farther you have to go. Like on paper, it's like, oh, it's 4.5 miles, but then you look up and it just looks so far away. But yeah, it was really nice to see all the stuff, all the parts that I couldn't see the first time, and all the colors of the canyon in general. Because I started like right at sunrise, and you just see the colors change as the sun gets higher and higher in the sky, and oh, it's beautiful. And there were certain parts that had like grass, like green grass, which I didn't know was a thing in the canyon. So that was really nice to like sit in the shade on the grass and just like chill for a bit. But yeah, it's in total it's about 14.3 miles, around 4,000 feet of elevation descent and ascent. So it's like a 14er. I mean, you're like, except you go down first and then up second. It's still a workout, but man, it was a blast. But I can't wait to go back after the river trail is open, so I can actually go down South High Bob to the Phantom Ranch, have lunch there, then take the original route that I had planned to back up. Except next time I'm gonna make sure I like train a little bit, and be more consistent with doing harder hikes beforehand to get more in shape. And then the next day, I went to Petrified Forest National Park and Painted Desert. Beautiful, beautiful area. For those of you familiar with the paint mines in the town of Calhan that is east of here in the Springs, it reminded me a lot of that, except on a much larger scale. It was the perfect place to just kind of chill, and most of the trails are paved and flat, and you see like there's a reason why it's called the painted desert because you can see the colors just explode, and there's even like green and bluish colors and such too. It's not just red and brown. And of course, one of my favorite things about any park, whether it's a national park, a monument, a state park, a city park, a regional park, are the visitor centers. And so that's when I really learned how the petrified trees like became a thing. I understood it because here in the Springs, about what 40 minutes west of here is the Florida fossil beds. So I learned years ago how that happens to wood. And I love to talk to the rangers because I've never met a ranger that was like grumpy. They're always like so excited to talk about the park and answer stuff you might have. Because I noticed the majority of the petrified trees look like someone had just cleanly sawed through them, and so I immediately thought like it's a conspiracy theory. They're trying to trick us and stuff. But nope, I talked to a park ranger and she explained how that happens, and it made complete sense. And just learning about how the whole area, much like the majority of the West, was underwater at one point, and how they've have found fossils of like I can't remember the name of the dinosaur, but it's like a crocodile, but 3 times as big as the ones we've got now. They found fossils of fish and sea plants and stuff, like, it's really cool. It really surprised me because, like Death Valley, I don't think it photographs well, or in the photos that I've seen of the place, it doesn't really make it look like amazing. But when I went to Death Valley, I was blown away. Like it is stunning out there, and it's the same way Petrified Forest. It was just stunning the whole time.
So you mentioned on the going back to the Grand Canyon, they call that Havasupai Gardens. They used to call that Indian Gardens. Did they change the name
Yeah,
of it?
yeah.
Okay. I thought so, which that's fine. Yeah, the issue with the water there, they've been having for the last couple of years at the Grand Canyon lots of problems with the water supply. The pipeline that goes from the top down to Phantom Ranch at the bottom. So no surprise they had another problem there. They've had issues with getting fresh water down at Phantom Ranch because that water line would break here and there. I mean, it's probably a 150-year-old water line, and if it's like anything else like the government has, they haven't bothered to replace it in 150 years, and probably made out of wood or something like that. So no surprise they had that. It's a shame but not so surprised to hear that people were hiking down there without water, because that hike down the Bright Angel Trail is an easy hike down. But
Oh
as
yeah.
you found, and I've done it, and you've done it, this is not your first time, it is a bear from the gardens up to the top. It's about 4 miles up there, but the last 3 miles are pretty tough. There's a lot of switchbacks to get up
Yeah.
there, and it is a tough hike up there. And a lot of people get used to going down there, and it's so easy. And they hear that there's water, and the gardens are nice. It's shady, and there's, if I remember correctly, there's campsites there. I think there's even a ranger station down there and bathroom facilities. But like I said, if there's no water, you get yourself in a whole lot of trouble. Of course, you were down there in March, February, March, and this time of the year it's not terrible down there yet, but people do that in the middle of the summer, and that's a really bad idea. So you went down the Kaibab. The Kaibab is a very steep trail, and it's
Yeah.
even worse when you get past the Tonto Trail. The last couple of miles down before you get to the river is really, it's switchbacks, and it's like you look at it from the north side, and you look across to the south side, and the south side Kaibab Trail looks like it's down the face of a cliff, and it's really steep to go up there. So would you do it if you did it again? Would you go down the Bright Angel and up the Kaibab, or would you still do it the way you did it this time?
I think I will go down to Bright Angel first because I did pass by 3 park rangers hiking up, and I asked one. I was just like, so why are you hiking up to Kaibab instead of Bright Angel? Because it's much easier. and 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 the Ranger said, "Oh, just it's so much easier on the knees." And this was before my right knee started to really hurt. And so when it started to really hurt, that's about when I reached the Tonto Trail, and I was like, "Oh, that guy had a great point." Oh, I also saw a burro pack going up, so I thought that was really cool.
Were they going up the Bright Angel or were they going up the Kaibab?
It's Kai Bob.
Okay. So is the distance from the rim to the Tonto Trail on the Kaibab about the same as it is from the Tonto to on the Bright Angel to the rim? Or is it, in other words, if you from
Oh,
the Tonto Trail goes from Kaibab to Bright Angel, is the distance from either end to the top about the same, or is one shorter than the other? Or
that's a good question. Let me bring up my Garmin app.
I knew I'll throw you a curveball. I was just thinking about that, trying to think if I were to actually do this hike, which now that you tell me it's 14 miles, I thought it was like 10 or 11. Of course, once you get into double digits, it's double digits. But I was just thinking, well, which way would be easier?
Let me look. 'Cause I want to say I hit Tonto around close to 5 miles down.
Okay.
Then Tonto close to 4 miles, and then from there it was 5 miles going up. So yeah, it's about the same. I would say the Kaibab to Tonto is a hair shorter than
Oh,
Tonto to Bright Angel.
and the Tonto Trail connecting the two of them, you said it's about 4 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. See that's shorter than I thought, and the distance from the top to the Tonto is longer than I thought. But to be fair, before anybody says I haven't done my homework, I've only rudimentary did some planning on this. Obviously, if I were actually going to go do it, I would plan this more in depth. But now I have Kevin who's done all the homework for me. I don't have to do as much of the homework. So overall, though, you really packed in a lot of stuff in a few days. How'd you like Williams? Williams is kind of a cool little Route 66 town, isn't it?
It's a great town. And there's like a lot of shops and restaurants on the main street too. Because I made sure to eat good the entire time I was out.
Smart move.
And I just love those like old west towns. Because it like that and Winslow both have very old timey old west feelings and looks to them. And like I had mentioned, it was really cool to stay in a repurposed train car. Winslow, I thought was a really cute town. It's very small, and I thought Williams was small, but both are about an hour away from Flagstaff in both directions, like east and west. And Flagstaff is a great city. I love that city.
It's a good college town.
I'm trying to. Oh, and in Winslow, I found out that motel stands for motor hotel, but
Motor hotel. Yep.
so I finally realized, like, because I've always thought, like, what's the difference between a hotel and a motel? And then, like, I forget about it, and then I forget to bring out my phone and look and stuff. But yeah, it was a historic motor court, is what they called it, and it had like the original neon design lights and stuff. Like, it was really cool. And the owners, their front office is their living room because they live on site. It was the same at the train car place that I stayed at in Williams. The owner's like front office is their house. So it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm in your living room now. Okay, this is weird. Yeah, it was all great though.
The train car you stayed in at Williams, was it a caboose? Was it a like one of the passenger cars, or was it a converted box car or something, or what was it?
I don't think it was a passenger car, but it's more of a box car.
Okay.
No, it was definitely not a caboose because they had two of those on site, and those were way too big for me because it's just me. But I found out about the place because my friends took their son to Las Vegas and the Grand Canyon and stuff last year, and they stayed in the caboose, and there's like two beds, and like it's divided into rooms. And where the train car I was in was divided up into three smaller rooms. And the neighbors I had who were staying in the same car, but in the other rooms were really nice. Obviously, I took a picture of it. See if I can show it on the screen. So it says Grand Canyon on it.
Okay. Well, I wonder if it's one of the cars, because they have a train that runs from Williams to the Grand Canyon. I wonder if it's one of the old train cars from that train. which would be pretty cool. They do that train that runs up there. I don't know how. That's probably like a couple hour ride up there. So you like Williams. So Williams is a cool town. Winslow, did you stop at the famous corner there from the
Oh,
Eagles song,
of
standing on the
course.
corner? Yeah.
And I
That
was
is that is a really cool place.
when I was walking around downtown or their Main Street, I was just blasting the Eagles, and then I was blasting the Eagles in my hotel or in my motel room all night, and then I got kicked out for that. Um,
You know you didn't.
I'm trying to. Oh yeah, here's the motel I stayed at with the
Oh, very
like
cool.
with the neons stuff.
Right.
Like yeah, it was just cool. Meanwhile, in Vegas, we stayed at a Best Western Plus with the free breakfast every morning. So that's the only thing that's better about a hotel is the breakfast. But like I did last year on my little road trips, I'd love to stay in quirky spots, and they tend to be like much cheaper too.
Well, motel is from Motor Hotel, and I think the idea was that when they started expanding and vehicles got popular, the idea was instead of staying in a hotel, you could drive up to the door where you were staying, and it's kind of like where the motel, I think, came from. So it's kind of cool you found one of those. And at the corner in Winslow, Arizona, where they have the Eagle song playing, they actually have the big Route 66 in the intersection, and there's if you look at that intersection, there's a flatbed Ford, and there's on the side of the building, there's windows painted, and there's an eagle in the window, and they have the song playing constantly on the speakers around there. And if you look around there, you'll see reminders of things from the song all around that intersection. I'm sure you saw all that, Kevin, when you were there. But if you travel through Winslow, it's off the interstate a little bit. It's by the railroad track, so it's a little south of the interstate. But if you travel through Winslow, it is definitely, and if you're a fan of the Eagles and you like the song, it's definitely worth going to. And there's a store there, probably was there, a big souvenir store right on the corner where they have just about everything Winslow and Route 66 and all that kind of stuff there. And I spent way too much money at that place, so I refuse to go through Winslow anymore. Well, cool. I'm glad you had a great trip. You did some great hiking in there. The Oak Creek Canyon, the West Fork Oak Creek Canyon, I've done it once in the fall, I believe it was. We got back there a little ways. There was a little bit of water in the creek, like you said, in the spring. I'm sure it's running. So you had to wade through it, I guess, to cross it. There's no bridges that I remember to
Correct.
cross that creek. So you have to wade through it. Was it really deep or anything, or how was it?
It was about a foot deep,
Okay. So not
but there
terrible.
was enough rocks that were large enough and stable enough to just rock hop across. Some of the crossings required a little bit of strategy. Like I had mentioned with the Grand Canyon, people like not having the best behavior with the smarts and know-how with like not bringing water and stuff. If you're in a large group and it takes everyone a very long time to rock hop across a creek, let the more experienced hiker go first. Or once the first person does that and everyone realizes like, oh, it's going to take a while. Because I got stuck behind this group twice, and I'm waiting like 20 minutes for them to finish because they wouldn't allow me to like get in.
That's just
Um,
rude.
yeah, and it's just kind of like come on guys, like you obviously saw me earlier and that I rock hop really quickly. Let me go through and stuff, but because there was like a group of 6 or 7, and I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting, and they're complaining the whole time and stuff, and it's like, then why are you out here? Because I want people to enjoy the outdoors and stuff. I get that it's not for everyone, but if you're gonna go on a hike and just complain and moan and groan the entire time, then like, why? So that was really frustrating. Because I ran into a similar thing on the Bright Angel Trail where there were like families who took up the entire trail, and as you know, that trail is narrow, and people would look back and make eye contact with me, and I'm right behind them, and it's just continue walking, and it's like so there are multiple times I had to stop and say like, hey, excuse me, hey, is it okay if I pass you and stuff? And they're like, oh, whoa, whoa, and just act all confused and flustered, and it's like, come on, like a little bit of common sense. And when I notice hikers behind me and they're obviously hiking a lot faster, I step aside, I let them pass, and then I go at my own pace instead of just hogging up the trail and not letting them pass. And
Yeah, and even when I'm out hiking, sometimes you just don't realize somebody's behind you. I like it when they say, "Hey, can I pass?" Because I don't want to hold them up. I don't want to be that person because I
Oh
don't want
yeah,
it to
yeah.
happen to me. So it's like, yeah, sorry, go, go right ahead and get ahead of me. Obviously, you don't want to hold anybody up. You don't want to be that person. So, well, I'm sorry I had to experience that. I'm not the least bit surprised, unfortunately, that that happened out there at either place. But yeah, you would think that you wouldn't have to, especially when they see you, wouldn't
Yeah,
have to
that's the part
ask
I
you.
don't get is that I don't mind saying, "Hey, excuse me," or whatever, because I totally get like there's been times where I just didn't hear someone behind me, and I've done that where it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," blah blah blah, but I was like making eye contact with me and then turning around and not like stepping aside or anything. Like I don't get that part.
Yeah, yeah, doesn't make sense. Well, it's a shame that that's happening. Now I know what to expect if I do the Tonto Trail. I still want to do it. I still want to try it. I think I would go down the Bright Angel and go
Yeah,
up
yeah.
the because that section, that upper half of the Kaibab is not as steep as the lower half past the Tonto Trail, where it really gets. There's that one. That before or after that one bathroom station on the Kaibab Trail, or is it right around there?
The the Tonto Trail is at that bathroom, so
So
you
right there, right?
yeah, and then you take a right. I'm trying to
No,
yeah.
right
Yeah,
or
you
left? I think you go left, right? You take a left to go on the Tonto from that bathroom. You keep going
yeah.
straight or kind of bear right a little bit to go down to Kaibab.
Yeah, if you're facing the bathroom, yeah, it's a right to go on Kai Bob, a left on Tonto. Yeah, and it's right there. Oh,
Okay,
and there's a rest house too.
right. So right after that is where it really gets to be really steep. I mean, it's steep anyway, but I
Yeah.
think I would rather do that and go down the Tonto or go down the Bright Angel. So anyway, if I get to do that, which I should do before I get any older and more geriatric, I already
No, I
am.
will say that like most of the canyon and deserts in general, but especially on the Tonto Trail, like you are completely exposed. So I was lathering on the sunscreen. I'm actually shocked that I didn't get sunburned because as I got lower and lower into the canyon, it was getting warmer and warmer, and the sun is just beating on me for hours. And then when I got back to the top of the south rim, I got cold, so I was like, okay, putting the jacket on. You know what's weird? It's Arizona and Las Vegas were pretty chilly, but they were warmer than what today was in the springs. But I was like hot outside, but when I was in Vegas and Arizona, despite it being warmer than it was here today, like I was freezing. I'm not really sure why, but yeah, it was weird.
Well, during that time you were there down here in Phoenix, it was the same thing, chilly, and it felt chillier. And I don't know if it was the humidity was up a little bit,
Yeah.
but there was like a cold bite to it, even though it was like 60, 70 degrees. There was definitely a cold bite to things, even down here. So there was that little edge. And I don't know if that was a humidity thing or something the wind was bringing in, but I know exactly what you're talking about. We were feeling the same thing down here in Phoenix during that time frame that you were up doing those hikes. So I think it was something transient in the weather that was bringing
Yeah.
that in. It was doing that. While you were doing that, a friend of mine was down visiting, and we spent a day taking some pictures around here. The wildflowers were in bloom, and then we went up to a place called Camp Verde, and it was one of
Camp
those hikes.
Furry?
Camp Verde,
Furry,
um,
okay.
and it's about, I don't know, it was almost a 2 hour drive to get to the spot. Anyway, we did a hike to a place called Fossil Creek Falls, and it's one of
Okay.
those things that it was like a 2 hour drive for a 3 mile round trip hike. But the waterfall was cool. The hike was really nice. So we got to do that, took some pictures. Everything is still, it's a higher elevation, high enough up that you're out of the saguaros, you're in the forest,
Oh, it's pretty.
So
Yeah.
it was really, yeah, you've seen the pictures of it. And so everything wasn't quite green yet. So what I did was the pictures I took, I liked them. I want to go back up there in the fall. Unfortunately, the water flow might not be as much, but it would be prettier because everything would be green. So I made the picture into a black and white. And it's actually on my personal Facebook page. It's the cover photo on my Facebook page in black. I thought it looked really cool in black and white. I usually don't do my waterfall pictures in black and white, but I thought it actually looked better in black and white. Anyway, it was a really fun time. We had a good time there. We brought the dogs. She had her dog. I had Cole with me. One of those things, like I said, 4 hours total of driving for a 1.5 hour hike, but well worth it. I mean, it was a blast. And we did it now because starting April 1st through the end of September, I think you need a pass to go to this place. And you need a day pass. You have to reserve it in advance because there's not a lot of parking available up there. The road's kind of rough. And so we did it this time of the year. I would like to do it in the fall when the colors are changing and there's a little bit more foliage, and then shoot it again. And that time, process the picture in color. And a quick note about the wildflowers down here in the desert. All winter I was looking forward to the big super bloom that I thought we were going to have because they had a lot of rain this past fall, which is when the poppies need it to bloom later on. So we did have a lot of poppies bloom here, but it ended up not being a super bloom because after all that rain in the fall, it hasn't rained a whole lot. So they've been blooming in some spots, not in others, and not in places where I've seen them before, and they're already dying off. So the poppies were blooming, and if you were down here early enough in the season, you got to see them. If you're coming down in a couple of weeks, you're probably not going to see any. The good news, however, is I saw today, we're recording this a couple of days before this goes live, a lot of the cactus are blooming. So they had enough water. They need the heat to bloom, and it's warming up enough that they're starting to bloom. So I'm saying cactuses bloom already. So that's kind of the good thing for anybody. If you're coming down to take pictures in the desert or you want to do some hiking down here, you definitely want to do it in the next month or two, March, April. By May, it'll start consistently hitting 100 degrees and be too hot. And if anybody who's listening to this and they're planning on coming down here and you need suggestions for a hiking trail in the Phoenix greater area, give me a holler. And I haven't hit every trail yet, but by God, I'm trying to hit them all. And I'm going to hit some more. I'm going to do some hiking in the Superstitions, more hiking in the Superstitions this spring. So we'll see what happens with that. Kevin, I think we kind of covered everything. You had a great experience. Thanks for the update on all those places that you went and hiked. I'm so glad you got a lot of hiking in. Next time you go to Las Vegas, and you may have visited there already, but check out the Neon Museum.
I was there on Saturday night.
Okay,
it is awesome.
You went there. By suggesting anybody who wants to go there, you have to schedule a time frame to go visit there. You have to schedule your time to go visit there. My suggestion is schedule a time there when you're there right around sunset, because that's when I went there. And so they light up all the neon. What this is all the old neon signs, all the lighted signs from all the old casinos are at this museum, and it's an outdoor museum. And I went there when they light them up at night, and I got there at around as the sun was setting. So I got these great pictures of these neon lights.
Oh, I bet.
The only bad thing is because all these things are copywritten and trademark things, I can't sell any of the pictures I have of there. I can have them hanging up in my house. I couldn't even post them on social media. But I got these great pictures of these beautiful neon signs, and it's really a good time. Some friends of mine went and visited there, and I think I can post them on social media, but I'm not allowed to sell the pictures, which I wish I could because I got some fantastic pictures. So if anybody goes out to Vegas, go to the Neon Museum. Really cool place outside. They light up all these the old Stardust sign and all these old signs.
Oh, it was so cool.
Yeah, and if you get there around late in the afternoon, around sunset, or if the sun is setting while you're there, I think it's the best time to be there because you have a little bit of color in the sky. Makes for great picters. And a good time to.
Some of the signs were still in use and up at hotels and such when I was a kid. So, because I would see like a certain sign, and I'd be like, I remember this, which made me feel really old. But yeah, like I'm always gonna have a soft spot for Vegas because it's my hometown. But I really do miss old Vegas, like the Vegas Strip that I grew up in, because now a lot of the strip just seems to cater to the upper class and the wealthy. Like I miss the days where most of the hotels had their own themes and they went with them. Like Treasure Island now goes by TI, and they've stripped a lot of the of the pirate stuff out, and it's just bland now. Same with Caesar's Palace and a bunch of others. I did see that they're halfway done building a Hard Rock hotel, and it's in the shape of a guitar. So like the part that was finished looked really, really cool. I love the strip, and I go to Vegas every 2 or 3 years for family stuff, but I think this last trip was the first time I actually spent time on this trip in 10 years, and I'm good for another 10 years. But I will shout out downtown Vegas when I was a kid was the place you don't go to. They've really revitalized the whole area. There's different districts, like an arts district and such. And there's all kinds of shops and restaurants. They've converted a bunch of the old motels to where each room is like a little shop. And there's all kinds of artwork on the sidewalks and the street and stuff. Like it's really cool. That to me is more for the locals. And there's a coffee shop called Public US. Best coffee shop I've ever been to in the country. And the food is amazing. And so when I got back from my Arizona trip, I was like, I'm going to treat myself. I got a steak and eggs, but it was a New York strip. And this thing was huge. They said it's a 10 ounce, but this thing was massive. It got like a mountain of eggs and roasted potato bites that were incredible. So if you're in Vegas and you want a good spot for breakfast and a coffee, that's the place to go to.
Cool. There you go. Travel advice from Kevin. Excellent. Kevin, great to hear about your trip. A lot of fun, and look forward to, I know you posted a lot of pictures and you post a lot of reels and stuff on your Instagram and everything like that. If anybody hasn't looked that up yet, definitely go to Kevin's social media and check all that stuff out, because he posted some really great stuff about all his hikes he did out there. And excellent. Really appreciate it, Kevin.
Say I am. Oh, sorry. I like real quick. I will say I am exhausted.
Yeah, I bet.
Because I was just going every day, whether it was stuff in Vegas or hiking or my cousin's wedding. Because the wedding was Saturday night, so I stayed up late. And of course, Sunday morning we had an early flight home. And Sunday morning we lost an hour and then lose another hour. So I didn't get any sleep. And I actually accidentally dozed off in my recliner yesterday, and I just moved into a new place, and it came with blackout curtains. So I woke up at like 6:45 last night, and in my confusion, because I was supposed to be at work at 6:30 this morning, in my confusion, I immediately texted the work group chat saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm running late."
And they go, you're 12 hours early.
And I was in panic mode. Like I jumped out of my recliner. Because I got home and I started a movie and I just crashed hard. And in the bathroom, I brushed my teeth and I'm about to jump in the shower. Then I saw my phone light up, so I looked at it, and just my coworkers were roasting me, being like, "What are you talking about? Like you don't have to be at work for another 12 hours," stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I thought it was 6:45 in the morning, not it was just that confused state of mind, like after like a long heavy nap. Oh, it was and so today at work everyone was giving me a lot of crap about it.
Well, you earned it. So I mean, that's what happened. That is too funny. That's great. That's a good story to end with. Well, Kevin, thanks a lot. Great story. Great information for anybody who wants to do these hikes. And for people who listen, for Patreon patrons, and Kevin and I are going to probably record for the Patreon supporters, we record a special podcast just for them. And one of the things we do on there is we talk about a hike. We talk about stuff we don't talk about on the regular podcast. So if you want to hear all the inside information, you want to definitely do that. We're going to talk about, we talk about a favorite trail that we like. On the next one we do for the Patreon subscribers, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite Grand Canyon trails. So we'll talk about that on the next one. So Kevin and I will do a podcast here coming up pretty soon for the Patreon subscribers, and I'll talk about my favorite Grand Canyon trail that I like. And it's probably not one you've ever heard of, and but it'll be one that you would like to do. So anyway, Kevin, if there's nothing else, I think we'll just say goodbye to everybody. We've been talking to them for a while. You had great information, really enjoyed it. But I think it's time, and there go my dogs who are barking at something. We managed to get almost all the way through the podcast without the dogs barking, but there they go. So I don't know if anybody can even hear that, but if you can, sorry about that. Anyway, Kevin, if there's nothing else, I think we'll say goodbye.
Hey, we'll talk to you later.
Everybody, thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. We'll talk to you next time.